I'm good. I'm good. I just wanted to kind of tangle up on the prompt a little bit, if you guys would like to.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when you say secularism is based,
Yeah,
um,
dude.
and science should be trusted, I'd like to start with the science should be trusted part. So, have you heard of the replication crisis?
Mm, no, I can't say that I have.
Can you take a quick second, perhaps, and pull up the replication crisis and read what you find?
Can I take a quick guess at it?
Sure.
Um, we have a number of like landmark studies that are frequently cited, such as like Stanley Milgram, for example, and follow-up studies seem to have a difficult time replicating the results of these landmark studies that are often cited. Um,
Kind of. That's one part of it. Like all of science
Yeah,
suffers
I
from
got it
this.
up right now.
Yeah, all science suffers from this to a degree, but applied science far lesser than what most people cite, which is not applied science. When most people are talking about science, they usually are referring to social sciences, which they can't. Most of those studies and things can't be replicated, and it's as high as 60-70% of the time. So actually, I think we probably should be very careful about trusting any science, especially when it comes from the social sciences. This would include psychology, sociology, especially. Anything under the headline of sociology and human behavior should basically not be trusted almost at all. And that's the stuff that
Interesting.
people are usually citing more than anything else when they cite studies. They're talking usually about those types of studies inside of sociology more than anything. I don't really hear people cite studies about things like combustion, for instance. They usually cite studies about human behavior and apply it to social issues. So I'm not really sure that we should trust science that much.
Wait, are you saying like human behavior is not relevant to the study of politics or social interaction or whatever?
No. When did I say that?
Well, then why do you not? Why would you prefer a source over combustion?
Well,
Like,
no,
why
I'm,
would you
I'm
prefer
saying that
that?
the reason that people aren't citing things like combustion is because they don't. It doesn't really apply here when it comes to social interactions. They're usually using studies from the social sciences, and most of them can't be replicated because they're actually not true. They're giving you bad data.
Well, it's not that they're not true.
It is that they're not
It's
true.
no, it's that they're statistical
Well,
sciences.
my first thing is how would you be able to determine that it's bad data if there's a replicability crisis? You can't just
Because
assume
they're
that it's
not.
bad data.
Yeah, no, because they're not replicating it. So
So
the thing is
I know,
like,
but
yeah,
it's like you can't say it's good or bad then, right? You're
well,
just saying that you can't replicate
there's no reason
the
for me.
experiments.
There's no reason for me to believe any new social data which comes out until it has been replicated, because I have every reason to believe that when it is replicated, it probably is not going to hold up to be true. So it shouldn't be cited as being legitimate science until that replication happens.
Well, I think it's a fair statement to say that, well, until there are more results on this particular matter, I don't want to accept this as virtue of the evidence because the evidence is lacking. That's a fair statement. But when you say, I think that it's likely that new studies on this same topic are going to reflect that this particular claim is actually false, that's a huge assumption.
No, it's not really an assumption. The idea
It
here,
literally is.
if
It's
it
what an
can't be,
assumption.
hang on,
It
hang on,
literally
hang
is.
on, hang on, hang on, hang on.
Experiment
If
that
you
hasn't been replicated is going to end up
if
being false. That's an assumption.
70% of the things that I said to you were false, right? Wouldn't you assume that the new things that I told you were likely false?
But you haven't said
Can you
anything
answer
new
my
yet.
question first and then ask me one?
But you haven't said
Yeah, but
anything
can
new
you
yet.
answer my question first and then ask me one? If it were the case that 70% of what I said was false to you, wouldn't you assume that everything that I told you was false? Wouldn't
But
you
this
just
isn't the right
can you answer the
comparison.
question first and then
So I will answer your question and say, sure, yes,
Okay,
but
thank you.
that's not analogous with this
Yeah, and
situation.
also the way you would apply that in terms of like realistic, applied science, you would say, well, it's determined that there's a high probability of someone lying.
Well, this
Or
problem
there's
doesn't
likely
really happen in applied science, honestly.
so
It's
by the way,
there, but it's very
sociology and
low.
sociology and psychology can be applied.
Those are soft sciences.
They are soft. But they
And
can still be
really,
applied
it's because
sciences.
most of these are the study of the mind. The scientific part is just when they do data analysis or statistical analysis. That's the part that's scientific.
Okay, so what I see no problem with that statement. Yeah, and
That's because
still
it's
means-
true. That's because
Yeah,
what I'm saying to you is true.
You just clarified. That's it. Like there was nothing of problem. You just okay.
There was nothing. What do you mean? Like I'm just telling you that I have good reason to believe that most of the things that people cite, which they claim are scientific, even if they have studies backing them, are not actually to be trusted.
Wait. I might have misread
That's
this.
not good backing.
I might have misread this. So, is it that either... okay, so is it that people have tried replicating these studies or whatever with different results, or is it that
With the same
there
results.
haven't been-
They try to do it with the same results, often using the same scientists and the same data analysis, in fact. And often under meta-analysis, they also fail. That's the big one, right, is when they fail under a
Is there something
meta-analysis.
specific, like a particular type of, claim that has been repeatedly
This is
tested
almost
where
no.
there's
Actually,
varying
what's really
results?
funny here is this is almost across the board with all of the sciences which fall under sociology, and also in the medical field as well. And these are the things which are the
Gotcha.
most common, which are cited when you're, especially in politics, when you're doing political debates and things like this. When people say trust the science, they're not usually talking about trust a scientist who comes out and tells you about a new, form of combustion that they're messing with. They're usually talking about trust whatever this new, study about social behavior is determining for us to make policy. And so I really think that you should be very cautious, in fact, about trusting science.
With respect to social science.
With respect to the type of science that most people are always going to be referencing when they're discussing policy prescriptions for humanity.
So like what if I said, mice? Like that doesn't actually exist. But there's been recent social policy that has actually gotten rid of 200 mice inside my own lab.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I don't study a soft science.
Okay.
So are we really saying that this only applies to just soft science?
I actually don't understand what you're saying. Maybe
So-
you can clarify it for me.
You're talking about how most of the policy that's released
Yeah.
is going to be saying, hey, trust this study that's specifically in a social science or just a soft science in general, philosophy, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're saying that's the science that is mostly being talked about, thus
Yes.
we shouldn't trust science.
Well, yeah, I'm saying that at least in the branches which we're usually referencing when we're talking about prescriptions for social policy, yeah.
So then what about social policy?
What
Like
about
what was
social
enacted
policy?
with what about social policy like what was enacted with the Big Beautiful Bill
Mm-hmm.
that actively cut the funding of scientific fields, both soft and hard sciences?
What about it? What does that have to do with my claim?
That is a social policy that was very recent that is cut down. How do
What
you
does that
think
have to do with trusting whatever science would be referenced for why we should do
would
or
you-
shouldn't do
would
that?
Would you use the exact same argument?
No, of course not. It's not.
Could
It,
you see-
what is?
could
What
you
are they
see how
pointing
someone could
to?
use-
What are they
could you see how
pointing
someone
to
could
for
use
social
that argument?
sciences? I don't understand.
Could you see how someone could use that argument to justify doing something like that, cutting?
If they
you
were
know,
pointing towards studies and data, which was focusing on sociology, yeah, of course they could point to that and should. Republicans get this wrong as much as Democrats do, sure.
Okay, Republicans get it wrong just as much as Democrats do. Okay, then there's no problem.
There is a problem. It is a problem when you make
no,
the
but-
statement that we should trust the science. Yeah, that's a problem.
If we're referring to a hard science, then obviously, if we're referring to a soft science, let's do some research. Okay, I mean, a hard sciences you should do research anyway as well, just to make sure something actually.
Yeah,
has
but
validity.
soft sciences, which are referenced, like let me give you a good example of this, like a real time example. There has been now for pretty hard for about the last 10 years or so, a pretty rapidly evolving debate on the T issue, right? The T in LGB, right? So
Gotcha.
on that T issue, most of the things which are cited by both sides are basically junk science. They're almost universally, none of it's really been replicated, even under a meta-analysis. A lot of it fails in replication. Things like the study of T brains and things like this, which have very inconclusive outcomes, are cited as proof of why social policy should go one way or the other. And that's not to be trusted at all, and shouldn't be trusted at all.
Okay. So are T people in your eyes?
What does that have to do with anything I just said?
No, just because this is going to
That has nothing to do with
It does.
anything I just said.
It does actually.
How?
I can explain
How?
how.
Okay, go ahead. Explain how
So-
first.
Yeah. So the reason I'm saying this is because generally the way that you see this happen is that someone on the right will generally try to dehumanize people. I personally, I don't really care what the science says necessarily.
Of course.
I'll
There we
treat-
go.
I'll
There we
treat a
go.
person-
You don't really care what the science says necessarily.
I'll
There we
treat
go. That's
a
all we
person-
needed.
I'll treat a person like a person, no matter what happens. I'm not going to say, "Oh, this scientific study says you're not a person." That's just the what? No. So
What
if we
does that
treat-
have to do with anything I just said?
So what I'm explaining is how the social policy differs between left and right in our United States, and how we have.
Who's arguing about how social policy differs between the
You
left and
brought-
right in the
you
United
brought this
States?
up, but it doesn't actually.
I didn't bring
generally,
any
you'll
of that
see- you'll
up.
see
Why
people-
are you lying?
Buddy,
What I
can
brought
you
up is
can
that
you interrupt a little
referencing
less?
social sciences. Then respond to what I'm saying. Don't just make stuff up.
I am. If you want to jump in, on
Then
the topic,
steelman my view. Steelman it first.
steelman your view.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because both parties use social science as this leveraging point, when ultimately social science cannot be repeated, there's no use to actually using social science in policy. Thus, we shouldn't trust it as much when referring to politics.
Well, close. So the caveat there would be not that none of it would ever be true, only that we have good reason to not trust it.
Perfect. Okay. I understand your belief then.
Okay.
So the statement I'm making is specifically on the basis that left and right use it differently. Okay. When we look at someone who's a liberal, which by the way, I don't even necessarily agree with them, but generally on the side of Democrats, you don't see as much of a statement trying to say that these people are fundamentally different, or they have a disease, or they have a disorder or something like that. That's generally not something you see on that side.
On which
However,
side?
On the left.
Yes,
on,
you
on
do.
the Democrats.
Of course you do.
No, okay. Can you cite a source?
That, yeah, the
happened?
DSM.
The DSM-5,
Yeah.
which says
That
hold on, I'll
that
bring it
that
up.
gender dysphoria is a mental illness.
No, it actually doesn't call it a mental illness.
Oh, okay. So why is it in there then?
It's a disorder.
Oh, it's a disorder. And what are disorders?
It literally is called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
Oh, so it's a mental disorder. My bad.
Yes, just like how ADHD is one.
Yeah, it is does it classify bipolar as a disorder?
Say again?
Does it classify being bipolar or borderline
It's a
personality as disorder?
Bipolar is also a disorder.
Yeah, so
yes,
and
just like
you
ADHD
so you
is
don't
also
consider
a
those
disorder.
mental illnesses then, just disorders. Even so we're saying the exact same thing and you're just being as bad faith as possible.
No, disorder is a larger term. It's like saying all rectangles are squares. That's not right.
Wait a second. How larger how?
So disorder is a larger classification.
Yeah, how?
Just like how all squares are actually rectangles.
That doesn't answer anything, right? How is it a larger or larger encompassing than illness?
Than illness?
Yeah, I said mental illness, and you said no, it's not an illness; it's a disorder. We're saying the same exact
Yeah,
thing.
It's specifically a disorder. It's not so.
Are there
you're doing
anything
small-
that is classified
are
as a mental
all- so
illness by the
then my
DSM?
question-
Anything?
Yeah, there is.
What?
Maybe not some specific disease.
Yeah, of course not. So we said we were saying the exact same thing, and you were just being as bad faith as possible. Okay,
That's
gotcha.
not bad faith.
It
but
was.
okay.
If I say mentally ill, you say mental disorder. We are saying the same thing.
I don't feel like mentally ill is necessarily a good term. to
Yeah,
choose for
whatever. I'm
someone
glad
who
you don't
has,
think
like,
so. We're saying the
ADHD.
exact same thing. But whatever.
No,
So you just call it a
actually,
disorder.
I'm reading through the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, Would you like to look at it?
Yeah, but when I say the words mentally
It's
ill,
right
though, what am I referencing, though? I'm referencing the exact same thing you are.
Yeah, but I don't say the R word.
What?
Like I don't say retread. Okay,
I didn't say that either.
I know, but I'm pretty sure it's not politically correct at this time.
What does
So,
that
I
have
mean,
to do? Mentally ill is not politically correct. That's absurd.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Fire has a much better understanding on this. So disorder and illness are symptoms, right? Yeah. So we have stressors and stuff like that, right?
Okay,
And we
yeah,
have
whatever. So
somatic and
anyway,
systematic.
now that we've figured out we're saying the exact same thing, can you contend with my argument here on why science actually probably shouldn't be trusted when we're referencing it for social policy, because
Yeah,
most of it can't be replicated?
So I mean, I have some examples here of how science has been replicated,
No, nobody said science can't be replicated.
referring to social sciences.
Yeah, you would use a meta-analysis.
That's what these are.
That meta-analysis would be the best way
Yeah.
to do it. What does it have to do with
Yeah.
anything?
So do meta-analyses, do they have any validity?
They can, yeah, but they can also be
They
wrong
can?
too. They can also
can also be
fall
wrong.
under replication crisis. Yes.
They can also fall under replication crisis.
Hmm.
So when we repeat something,
Yep.
right, and that's how we get that meta-analysis where we're combining all these different statistics.
Well, you're combining meta-analysis is combining a multitude of different studies. In fact,
Yeah, that's what I'm.
yeah, in
talking
order
about, yeah.
to create some type of validation standard across them, so that we can find some type of truth or fact that we see
I
over
feel
and
like
over
you
and
just
over.
repeat everything I say.
Well, I'm being hyper specific for a reason, because if I'm not, you'll try to catch me up on illness versus disorder when we say the exact same thing. So now I have to be specific, don't I?
Not really. I
No,
mean,
not really now.
you
Now
never
I
have to.
don't. But before I
have to.
did. Okay, got it. So anyway,
No, never said you did.
yeah, so meta-analysis can
So-
also fall under you can do a meta-analysis and have it fall under the replication crisis as well. But the thing is that most of the things which are cited are not referenced in a meta-analysis, and that's the truth.
Can you give an example of that?
Yeah, most of the T studies that I've seen on TikTok don't fall under a meta-analysis, especially when it comes to the
Korean studies on TikTok. Okay.
yeah the people that are referencing this for social policy. They don't actually fall under any meta-analysis, especially when it comes to the brain studies. The brain studies, especially for the T thing, that would be an example I would give.
I mean, I just looked up studies meta-analysis, and it says it includes higher rates of suicidal thoughts. And
No, what would I specifically say?
Yeah, so
Brain
these things do
studies,
exist.
brain studies
Brain
on the
studies.
fact that you can look at a person's brain and determine their gender. That would be the brain studies.
Brain sex and transgender women is shifting towards. This is based upon Giuliano Cassiano. So it says brain sex and in T women is shifting towards gender identity.
That's nice.
So here's your introduction. Where is our?
Can we get to the meta-analysis portion?
That's what I'm looking for right now.
You're not going to find it. And if you do, it'll be an abstraction that won't have really anything to do with being able to determine gender by the brain itself. But yeah, it's often cited by kind of the influencers in the T-sphere as though this would be valid science, even though there really hasn't even been any time to replicate or do any heavy meta-analysis on it.
So,
And this is why it's not to be
we're talking
trusted.
about when we talk about like